Meeting. So let's call our meeting to order here at 4:35. And let's start out with a roll call. Marty, you want to start us?
Sure. Marty Fig, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Isabella County.
Sarvjit Chaudhary, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Dave Coyne, Union Township.
Robert Bacon, Union Township.
Tom Keequam, Union Township.
Brian Milkey, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
Hi, Brian.
Moving on to agenda item 3, the approval of the agenda for today. How's that looking to everybody?
It looks good to me.
Is that a motion?
I'll move that we accept the agenda as presented
I'll
for
second.
tonight.
Who supported?
I do. Chaudhary.
Motion by Fig, support by Chowdhury to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the motion is passed. The meeting agenda is approved. Let's move on to agenda item number 4, approval of the November 17th meeting minutes. Everybody can take a look at those and
One question, Rodney, on the minutes from last week. Did we approve any money for Middle Michigan Development Corporation, Jim McBride, during that meeting?
We did not. No, they have, that is already was approved as part of the budget for 2021. That's an annual contribution. And so it was included in the budget.
So that was just our annual report from their office.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I think they did a nice job. I look forward to working with them again. But with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented from November 17th, 2020.
I support.
a motion by Mr. Fig, supported by Mr. Coyne, to approve last month's meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the meeting minutes are approved. So moving on to agenda item 5, presentations. So what do you have on that, Rodney?
No presentations today. We do have our agenda item with our consultant that'll be coming up later, but nothing for this item.
And agenda item number 6, public comment. Do we have anybody on?
We do have one person on, but he is here at association with our Festival of Banners project. So well, I'm sure we'll hear from him then.
And moving on to item 7, reports. You want to walk us through the accounts payable?
I can do that tonight. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Sherry.
For the East EDA, we have some checks for you to approve tonight. I'll go through, I'll list them out here. We have a payment to Consumers Energy for $983.25. And we have a payment to Black Electric to change some bench lights to LED. And they also changed out the gateway banners, and that check is for $516.04. And then we have a check to Hometown Decorations and Display for the holiday lighting on Pickard. That is for $10,800. And then we have a payment to J Rank Electric for the new LED fixtures under the overpass that you approved previously. That's for $5,720. And then there's a payment to MMI for the ground maintenance up and down the Pickard corridor for November. That's for $562.50. And then we have a payment for fall cleanup in the Pickard corridor to Pleasant Time Herb Farm for $1,212.50. So your accounts payable for East DDA for this month is $19,794.29. Are there any questions on those?
I have one question, Sherry, on the holiday lighting, the hometown decorations. Does that include putting them up and storing them?
It includes the putting them up and taking them down. Yes, that's part of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You're only one click away from getting your hands on 15 market-proven, award-winning traffic.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Sherry, I had a couple questions. This is Tom.
Okay.
I just wanted to notice maybe with, hey, this one might be for Brian Melky. By the way, hi, Brian.
Hi, Tom.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Good to be back here.
I just noticed a couple of the light fixture hoods, the street lights, like in front of the water park, kind of in front of the, it's over by Home Depot. A couple of them are loose. Again, they're kind of laying sideways up on the light fixture itself. And I see a couple lights are out. That area also. Might want to block check into that.
I appreciate that. I've made a note of that. We'll have them take a look at that. There are the lights immediately around the interchange are still out because we're waiting the reinstallation of lighting under the overpass. That's the check you have there for J Rank Electric. They are that's still in process to get that done. And as soon as that's done, then that circuit will be re-energized. But I'll have them take a look at those hoods. I hadn't heard that one yet.
That was my next question about the J Rank new LED fixtures for the 5720.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed I see all the veneer stone. A lot of it's been restored. It's looking good, but the only thing I see really crazy looking is the conduit for these light fixtures is still just kind of draping, flopping in the breeze there.
Right.
Under that overpass. So that 5720, is that for the fixtures and labor?
No, that all we are paying for are the fixtures themselves. The MDOT is picking up the tab to replace that conduit and to reinstall the fixtures, which is about, as I understand it, about $15,000 worth of work that MDOT is picking up as part of their project.
Okay, super. That answers my questions. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the 19,000?
I'll make a motion to approve the 19,000 for the East DDA.
Support.
Support. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Coyne, supported by Mr. Fig, to approve the East DDA payables. And all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, the same. And motion is approved and the payables are approved. Thank you. Sherry, you
Okay,
want to
Go
keep us
ahead.
going, please?
yep, all right. Moving on to the financial statements for the East DDA. If you'll take a look at your balance sheet for the 248 fund, you'll see there's approximately $1.7 million in cash. And if you look at the ending fund balance projected right now, it's just a little under 1.7 million on the balance sheet. And then moving forward to the revenue and expenditure report, you'll see in the 2020 amended budget column, that's been updated for the budget amendment number 2 that was approved in November. So the budget's been amended and it's posted here. And in the revenue area, you can see that we're just at about 100% of the revenues have been, are coming in 100% of budget. And then looking at the expenditures, all of the expenditures have been posted here, including the accounts payable that you just approved. All of those expenditures are posted. And total expenditures are at about 84% of the budget right now. If you have any questions on any of those reports or the details here, please let me know.
Any more questions?
If not, I'll just move right on to the West DDA. Looking at the balance sheet for the 250 fund, the West DDA, there's approximately 1.2 million in cash. And there, the ending fund balance is projected to be about 1.2 million. And then moving on to the revenue and expenditure report for the West DDA. Again, all of the budget amendments have been posted in November, and we are showing that we're at about 100% of the budgeted revenue. And then for the expenditures, total expenditures are coming in for the end of November at about 90% of the budget. And if you have any questions on any of the details of that, let me know.
Any questions for Sherry from the board?
If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry. And let's let the record show the November financial reports were presented and filed. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7C. In your packet is the board member expiration matrix. Again, that's a handy spreadsheet just to keep an eye on your expiration, and let us know if yours is coming up and if you're still interested, so we can keep our board going forward. And going on to agenda item number 8, new business. Rodney, you want to start us off with that 8A, please?
Thank you. This is a request for EDA board action to approve the East DDA District's participation in our 2021 Festival of Banners event, which includes purchase, creation, and installation and removal of banners, 78 banners along East Pickard Road. We have with us the representative from Outreach and that coordinates this project for us, and I'm happy to turn some time over to him. George, if you'd like to just chat about what you have planned for this coming year.
I'd be very happy to do that. Thank you for inviting me. I'm George Roman. I'm chairman of the Festival of Banners project. We're entering our 13th year in putting this event together with the cooperation of Union Township. I really appreciate that. You've always been excellent in your support of us. This year is going to be a little bit different because of the pandemic. We're not able to space properly to protect everybody, so we've decided not to use Jameson Hall. That's an excellent location for us, by the way. It has a lot of space. It has the tables. It's just terrific. But for this year, we're going to forego that. We're going to see how well it works to have people paint at home. Now, that's not an easy thing to do because the banners are 5 feet long. It's kind of messy when you're painting. They have to have all the materials together and the paintbrushes and the paint, etc. But we're going to see how it goes. If there are a few families that can't do it at home, we can accommodate perhaps a half a dozen at the Outreach Center hall from one day to the next. So we're going to see how it goes. We're hopeful. This is one of our most popular events for Outreach. People call us all the time and tell us how much they enjoy it, how much their kids enjoy it. As you probably know, we don't charge anything for the children, and we don't charge anything for seniors. Now, seniors, 65, to me, those are kids. I'm in my 88th year. Well, but anyway, we do charge $30 for a banner for others. There are a lot of adult painters in town who participate, and they found that fee to be quite affordable. We're asking for $4,500 again this year, as we have in years past. That takes care of the materials that we buy. It takes care of the enrollment fee. As you know, we post the name of our necker on the other side of the banner every year. So we're trying to give as much credit as we can to our supporters. We're going to be putting up 300 banners. How many? If I can see how many would be on Pickard. A substantial number is going to go up on Pickard. 78 banners will be strung on Pickard Street, and I think on a couple of banners on North Isabella. I think we pulled just two flagpoles into North Isabella. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. I'd be glad to take suggestions if you know how we could do it even more effectively. The pandemic has really upset things at Outreach. Our revenue from sales is down. Our revenue from the artists is down in the gallery. So forward to this project.
Ray, George, I'd like to compliment you on all your work, and we've been glad to participate. We've always pretty much approved the funds unanimously over the many years that we've worked with the outreach program. And it's good to hear those positive comments that you were making. It's a very positive program. Hearing your results from people that are excited about it. I want to make an observation. And I don't want it to sound like a criticism, but I have observed the banners. I notice them like a lot of people do. And I've talked with our own committee here about looking at our logo on the advertising side of the banner, but that's a separate issue from what you're involved with. But I have looked at them, and we've talked about the banners in detail over the years. And one thing I noticed, and like I said, it's an observation, but I see the banners with the advertising, and that's important. But I look at the banners on the other side is the artwork. And when I'm driving down the street, I see the banners going one way and the advertising going the other. And I just wondered if it's possible to locate them alternatively, where you see artwork, advertising, artwork, advertising, and so forth, so that when you go both directions, you're seeing banners as well as advertising and the support of the program. I just wondered if that might be something to consider as a possibility, because the artwork's great when you're looking one way, but if you're going the other way and you just see the advertising, and this way it might pull your eye in there to see the next ad along with the next piece of artwork. That's my observation, George,
Yeah, thank you very much.
for what it's worth.
What we've tried to do is that if you're going west on Pickard,
Yeah,
you'd see the art and the advertising would be on the back. When you're going east on Pickard, it'd be the other way around, so that the driver would always be seeing the artwork and not the advertising. Now, we can do exactly what you said. It probably would increase the cost a little bit from the agencies that put them up. Like the city puts up the city ones. I think they might be willing to absorb the extra cost. I don't know whether you'd be willing to absorb your extra cost if you're asking them to alternate them. Makes it a little bit harder to do that.
well, that's a good point to consider. I think my main objective has been achieved just by you announcing that you wanted to talk about it, because the discussion is what I was looking for. Is it an idea worth talking about?
I believe it is, and I'll take it up with our committee.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
George, this is Brian Milkey. I'll just add that I appreciate the work that you do, and I think Marty said it very well. It's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. And I don't want to be redundant. Courtesies that the township has afforded us over the years. You've never said no. Wonderful.
Well, it's for a great cause. And I appreciate the banners. I just on a personal note, I very much enjoy them.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, we appreciate all your time well spent, George, because I'm sure you didn't take much on it either yourself. So we're glad to contribute.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Shall I hang on here or shall I exit the?
Well, hang on, because we haven't gotten to the vote yet. Tom, I see that you have your blue hand raised.
Yes, this is Tom Keekwam. I just wanted to mention, especially with our CIB planning guest present, a little backdrop history on this Festival of Banners program. I mean, this, like Marty said, we've been doing this for quite a long time, and this was one of the East DDA's partnership, sponsorship. You know, back in the day when the Festival of Banners was first created, the East EDA was the first entity to provide the funding for the banners. And we ran them strictly through the East EDA corridor. It was probably maybe 6 years later, the city jumped on board, as well as I believe the township also picked up some banners. I just want to give a little historical backdrop on it. I mean, I think it's a nice program. We've been doing it for years. I recommend we still provide a sponsorship. And commenting on the sponsorship, I think there's a difference between sponsorship and advertising. I know when the East DDA, years ago, it was the wishes of the East DDA Board of Directors to not put the East DDA name on the back of those. We just wanted to support the effort, and we did, and we recommended the township logo go on the back. But it gets a little sensitive when you have, you know, the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe, Isabella Bank, Mercantile Bank. They're also contributing. And how do you balance out, you know, the number of reads, the size of the message on the back side of the sign? I mean, I'm okay with the way it is, but something to think about. But anyway, that's just a couple simple comments of mine. But with that, it sounds like everybody's favorable. Can I get a motion to approve
I'd
this?
love to make a motion that we support the Festival of Banners for 2021. And the amount asked for, I believe, was $4,500.
Marty, if you would, under in our request for EDA board action, you have the action requested up there at the top. It's set up in a motion format if you want to use that. It just says, it starts out to approve the East EDA district's participation. That helps our Amy out with the minutes if we can use that language.
Well, I'll let
I have it right in front of me if you like.
you read it. Yeah, why don't you read it?
With Bacon here. I make
yeah,
a motion. We approve the East DDA district's participation in the 2021 Festival of Banner event via the purchase, creation, installation, and removal of 78 banners along East Pickard Road at a cost of $4,500.
I'll second. Support.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Bacon to approve this request for EDA action. Support by Mr. Coyne. Hearing no more questions. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And motion is approved, and the action is approved. Thank you. So going on to, and thank you very, very much, George. Mr. Roman.
Let me say thank you to you all and Merry Christmas. Have a safe holiday. Try not to get infected.
You either, George. Stay safe. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
And moving on to agenda item 8B. With the plans update. You want to start us out on that, Rodney, please?
Thank you. So we have with us tonight Carmen Aventini from CIB Planning, also Justin Sprague, and there she is, Elena Muller Younger, also from CIB Planning, to kick off our project to to update the East and West DDA districts, the development plans and tax increment financing plans. So I don't have anything new. You have just a memo that I shared again that we saw it last month, kind of outlining the beginning of this project. But I'll turn the time over to Carmen at this point, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Is this the time for the presentation then on the tax increment financing?
This is all yours, and so you can,
Okay, great.
you can handle these as you wish, and you're able to share your screen. So.
Okay, great. Before I do that, yeah, once again, we've got Justin Sprague and Elena Moeller-Younger from our firm also with me. And Justin and I are going to tag team on this presentation. We both work with tax increment financing in a pretty large fashion, so we both have an interest. I don't think you met Justin yet. He wasn't at the interview. We often get double booked on evenings. They're always seem to be the most popular Monday and Tuesday evenings. So, but yeah, so we're both gonna present this to you. It's not a terribly lengthy presentation, and then if you have questions afterwards, he can answer those for you. So let me share the screen here and get the right one here. You can bear with me for 1 second. I have to do one other thing first to be able to do that. Oh, you can bear with me 1 second. I'm still not great at this. I'm getting better, but okay. Let me share, and there we go. Can everyone see that?
I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about tax increment financing. Some of you may be very familiar with it, others may not. I know it's one of the most misunderstood terms out there. What is tax increment financing and how can you use it? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and hopefully, and then if you have questions, we'll answer them afterwards. So let me go into here. So tax increment financing is, we get our authority to do that through the state act. And back in 2018, they created a new act that consolidated all of these into one location, so they're easier to find. So you'll see here the PA 57 of 2018 is the act that gives us the authority to capture property tax increment and use it to pay for projects that are in the plan. There are other types of tax increment financing like brownfield, corridor improvement authorities, LDFAs, and so forth. But the one we're most interested in is for DDAs. So there's really two parts to a DDA plan. There's a development plan and a tax increment financing plan, although they're in the same document. So the purpose of having a development plan, what we want to do in there is we're going to define the boundaries. Okay, you've already got boundaries. We've talked about expanding the one for the East District, but within the plan we have to redefine what those are. We have to establish a need for the improvements. Okay, here's why we're doing this. We engage the public and the stakeholders, which we've included as part of the process, and we're going to also have a survey we do later. Not much later, actually pretty soon. And then we're going to make sure we've developed a vision for the DDA district. What are all the things that you want to include in the plan? Here's a sample district boundary. Your boundaries. We're going to be coming up with new maps for it, but that's basically what a district looks like. This is a sample of one. You want to include everything in there for all the projects that you want to undertake and where you want to capture all of your tax increment. We also have to put in there we have to identify projects, and we're going to probably expand upon the types of projects that you've done in the past. We're going to look at what are some alternatives. We're going to give you a variety of options to choose from, and we're going to put those in the plan. And that is going to determine where we put the money in the future. As we mentioned during the interview, we want to make sure that these categories are broad enough that we don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you have a project that comes up. And more importantly, we don't have to readopt the plan because does take a while to do that. So the purpose of a TIF plan is to explain the purpose and meaning of what tax increment financing is. We include tables for explaining how we're gonna, I'm sorry, I was supposed to change that name in there. Provide tables for explaining the tax capture. We have to show how taxable value will increase. And we have to show how captured tax increment will grow over time. So we include those on 3 different tables that are in each of the plans. So we have to show how captured tax increment will be used. So that's that project list I just mentioned, and the associated tools, the way we're going to actually use that money. We're going to identify which taxing jurisdictions we'll be capturing tax increment from. Typically, in this case, I think we're talking about the county, and there's some other taxing jurisdictions underneath the county that would be included in that. We have to indicate the term for capturing the taxes. We've already talked about that a little bit. We had a meeting, a kickoff meeting with Rodney and the rest of the administrative team. And so we're going to take a look at that and discuss that with you. Usually it's either 20, 25, or 30 years. A lot of that depends on the type of pushback we might get from the county in particular. And then what properties are we going to include in the district, which is where we're going to get into things, into the mapping. Here's how tax increment works. It's very kind of a simple way of looking at it. So year 0 in the life of the district, we assess a property tax value, okay, for the whole district. It could be $1 million. And we know it's more than that, but for example, it might be $1 million. So over time, as there's new investment in the district and properties increase in value on their own or because of new projects that occur, that value increases over time. And here we're showing a 20-year period for this particular tax district, this tax increment financing. So what we're going to do is once we establish that base of $1 million, any increment over that, any value, taxable value over there, over that number, let's say it goes up to 10 million, that additional 9 million would be additional tax increment that would go to the DDA for use in projects. At the end of the 20-year period, okay, let's say we end the DDA, you've done all the projects that you want to do, all of that revenue would go back to the taxing jurisdictions, that new tax increment. So if we didn't have a DDA, that line that goes up would probably be lower. There wouldn't be as much revenue, tax revenue captured if it were not for the DDA and the improvements that were made. So that's the concept behind it. So then we've got, here's some basic TIF facts. So under TIF, we can capture both real and personal property tax, although the laws have changed significantly. So personal property tax, there's just not a lot left to capture in that. And that came through the previous governor's administration. They did that intentionally to encourage companies and businesses to invest more in equipment, machinery, and so forth. We can't capture school debt millages, meaning, primary and secondary education. Sometimes we can capture college millages, but in this case, we're talking about the lower levels. We may capture debt millage from other taxing jurisdictions, which we'll be looking at, and we will probably do. Now, the expenditures must be spent within the district boundary, except for in some cases with infrastructure, like you have a road that's leading into the district, or you've got a utility line that's leading into the district, and you can't exactly, make the improvements within the district without connecting. So that's the one case where it can be spent outside. And a maximum of 80% of your annual revenues can be pledged to repay the bonds.
Can I ask a question, Carmine?
Sure. Sure.
I wanted to ask a question about, is it possible to do bonding projects then? You can bond for different projects? Is that the DDA can do a bonded project?
Yes, usually it goes through the taxing jurisdiction. In this case, the township, it would go through the township. But yeah, you can commit. What it's saying is you can only commit 80% of your annual revenues that you're anticipating to pay those bonds off, you're limited to 80% by state statute.
So it's not required that you have all the funds to do every project. You can bond for projects if you want to.
Yes.
That's a DDA choice. Okay,
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
But we're going to offer you another option here too.
Okay, thanks.
And we'll talk, that'll come up on, that's when I'm going to turn it over to Justin. Justin's had a lot of experience working with the project-specific tax increment financing, and I'm going to let him carry on with that. So the DDA capture will increase over time, and the existing taxes will continue to go to the taxing jurisdictions. Okay, it's not like you're telling the taxing jurisdictions that, hey, we're not going to give you the taxes you're currently getting from these properties. You're just saying that you're not going to get that increase that you might get normally, at least for the term of the tax capture. The future increases will go to the DDA. Now the capture will increase faster when redevelopment occurs. So when you get new projects going in, you'll get basically increased amounts of money coming into the DDA. And we've already talked about, the bonding. Now this is called project-specific tax capture. And I'll talk a little bit about it, and then Justin can talk through some of the experiences we've had using tax increment financing in very specific ways like this. So most DDA plans, like the one you've been working with, is very, it's based on the whole district, okay, whatever you're collecting over time. So you got to wait until, unless you're bonding, you got to wait for that money to come in before you can do things, okay? But what you don't realize sometimes, and we kind of invented this for Michigan, is it can be project specific. Okay, so what you can do is you have the ability to rebate back to the developer the taxes that you're collecting over a specific period of time to help close the feasibility gap in the project. Okay, we talked about this at the interview. So basically, instead of you as a community bonding, the developer is going to borrow the money. Okay, and each year that they pay their taxes, you can rebate that money back until you've completed your agreement with them. Okay, but the money isn't paid until the taxes are paid, so you don't run into a bind on that. Now, when you're evaluating project-specific requests, the thing to keep in mind is you have to make it available to all applicants. It's not like you're going to just say, here's one project that we're going to do. You can do 20, you can do 100 projects if you want, because you're only committing based on what they're constructing. You do need to have an application and review procedures, and I'll let Justin talk more about that because he's the one that actually has developed those for our firm that we've used. You need to have evaluation criteria to determine the amount and duration of the tax capture rebate. And you also need to have some kind of mechanism for prioritizing projects. Some projects you may want to rebate and to do this project-specific capture. Others you may not want to, or some you may want to do to a lesser extent. It might not be a high priority project. So instead of doing this for 10 years, you might only want to do it for 5 years or 3 years, whatever. So you need to have a system in place to do that. And then you need to have a development agreement at the end. And we typically recommend that, working with your attorney to come up with a standardized agreement that you can use on all projects, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time that comes up. So what I'm going to do is you're probably going to have questions, and I'm going to turn this over to Justin. Let me break out of this if you don't mind. Let me see. And let him kick off by talking about, let's see, stop sharing. Okay, there we go. So he can talk about the projects we've worked on where we've done project-specific tax increment financing. And you might even want to talk about the project we're working on right now, Justin, in Farmington. I think that's a good one. But and talk about the process, because the thing is, once this plan is finished and we've included that as a tool, that's something you're going to want to have in there to be able to evaluate projects. And like I said, Justin developed that for us.
Sure. So I'm happy to talk about it. The two communities that we really have sort of put this in play, we've worked with a few DDAs matter of factly, that we've provided this tool for, including Shelby Township, Meridian Township, City of Grand Blanc, and City of Langsberg, and a few others. And as Carmen stated, the premise is you have the ability to financially analyze specific projects being brought to you from developers and determine if there's a specific amount of tip capture that you would like to share back to that project. And so we did develop an application for that I can share with this group after this meeting for you to take a look at. But another thing that we like to do previous, and I can pull up a memo for a project that we're working on right now, just to show you kind of how we analyze things and start to look at how we would commit investment. So if I'm able to share my screen, I will go to screen 2. And so this is a project, if you can see, we are working on in the city of Farmington, where they have a former school in the downtown that the city is buying, and they would like to have redeveloped into housing. And so what we did is sort of looked at 3 opportunities for the site. Once it was torn down, we included the purchase cost and the environmental cleanup cost, and then used market comparables to look at a 124 unit option, an 80 unit option, and a 64 unit residential option. And we're able to identify over time the amount of total capture that would be available to be able to be committed back to that project. And so this is something that we're happy to work with you on as you have projects that come to you in the future. And as we look at the feasibility and the ability for the DDA to participate in supporting development, this is a really great tool. So we're excited to bring it to you to allow you to use it. And just to give you a little bit more breakdown on the detail, how we work out the numbers, here you can see we put in our assumptions, 124 unit market rate multifamily product. We add in the millage rates that are able to be captured by the brownfield, millage rates that are able to be captured by the DDA, break down the total percentages of mills, and then we have a breakout. I know this is a little difficult to read, but we have a projected breakout of when the developer could be made whole based on these capture rebates. So we have the estimate best case scenario, estimate worst case scenario. And we can show these both for brownfield and DDA. So that gives us an idea based on when a developer comes forward with potential gaps in their financing and asking for assistance, we're able to plug that into the model and come up with what we may be able to contribute to that project. And then through your application process, depending on the statement of need and desires of the community, you can determine how much you would like to participate based on that model. So that is something we'll be able to work with you on. And like I said, I can share a sample application that we prepared for Meridian Township after this meeting for you to take a closer look at. But with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any projects like that you're working on now or have already done?
We have 2 in process. So the City of Farmington project that I just showed you the tip memo on, we last night just convened with their city council to authorize discussion with 2 developers. We put a request for qualifications out to get development proposals for that site, and 4 responded. We're engaging with 2 going forward, and we'll be going through that process. So the next step will be for those developers to prepare their financial analysis to us so we can determine how much potential TIF may be needed to support the project. So we're going through that process now. And additionally, we're going through that process with Meridian Township in the village of Okemos which is currently sort of on hold at the moment. But there is a development team that is looking to, has purchased or in the process of purchasing 5 blocks of downtown Okemos, and will be demolishing those properties and building a new massive investment project that will be a multi-story mixed-use residential commercial office space project, basically creating a new downtown for 5 blocks of Okemos. So we've got the application in process there and are waiting sort of for things to normalize through COVID. Right now, lending is not very friendly to commercial office uses as well as retail uses, given the nature of the economic lockdowns and shutdowns that are going on. So as soon as that sort of normalizes, that project is intending to pick back up. So we're kind of half-mast with it right now.
Yeah, sounds good, though. It sounds very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, Brian Milkey has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Tom. This may be catching up, and maybe this board has already discussed this, but we have an existing East EDA that is will be sunsetting. And as I read through documents from the August meeting, I believe it was, the verbiage in there basically says update the East EDA district TIF and plan. Is this a situation where the funds that exist will carry over from the existing authority into this new, is this creating a new authority, or is this actually extending the existing authority under new statute?
So I would have to go back and look at the proposal itself. You can do it 2 ways. You can extend it, basically extend it for an additional period of time, and still go, but you still have to go through the same adoption process. You still have to bring the regular taxing entities in, or the other option is to let it sunset and create a new authority. And I believe we're probably going to opt for the extension. That's a little bit easier.
And we have some cash reserves that would be nice as
Correct.
Right.
So when you extend, yes, those reserves stay intact.
And actually, when I was on the EDA board about a decade ago and was involved in the process for renewing I think it was the West EDA at the time. Maybe it was the East. I can't remember.
I think it was the East, Brian.
Okay.
We were renewing. Yes, that was the East.
So thank you for that answer. You're in your presentation. Well, it was in the previous presentation talked about not capturing from school debt millages. Is that part of the changes that happened with state statute? Because I believe in the past when we set it up, we were actually capturing from the school districts, and that was something that always bothered me. Is that when, in particular, like the library millage we have. Voters.
Well, I hold on. I need to stop you for just a second. My computer just froze for about 30 seconds, so I missed all of that.
Is it me? Maybe it was me. What back when I was on the EDA before, or the EDA and before, we were actually capturing taxes from the school district, the library, et cetera, et cetera. And that always bothered me a little bit, in particular, the school district, because I'm a pro public school person, but like the library was a millage that the voters chose on their own to pay into. And here we were taking money from something where they intended to go to the library system and we're using it for something else.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just regular taxes. So in the presentation, it was mentioned that you cannot capture school district debt millages. Is that something that is in the new statutes, and that's why that was stated?
Correct. When Act 57 came together, that was changed. So the Brownfield Act 381 can still capture school assessments. Under the new act, we cannot. And furthermore, under the new act, libraries do have the opportunity to opt out now. So that would be a piece that we could talk to them as we're looking to extend and expand and adopt the new plans. We could have a discussion with them to see if they were willing to stay in And sometimes we do that by offering what we call a pass-through, where in exchange for capture, we intend to make them whole to a certain piece, or do specific projects for them in exchange for that revenue. So those are things we can look at, but again, at the end of the day, they do have the ultimate say-so. They can opt out if they choose.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. And then I think I had one more. Yeah, and I know this isn't the focus today, but right at the beginning we talked about the different types of tax captures, downtown development authorities, brownfield, and you mentioned the corridor improvement authority.
Correct.
With regards to that, is that something that, if the township had interest in that, and I have a corridor in mind, but if we had interest in that, is that something that this board could take on? Because this board currently really oversees two authorities, both at west and at east. Is that something this particular board could take on if the township went that direction?
So we'd have to look at the act. One thing that's different about a corridor improvement authority is that the establishment is much the same as a DDA. However, you don't have to create an ordinance and pass an ordinance for the corridor improvement authority. That is only created by resolution by the township board. So that would be something that we'd have to look at. And then there, within all the acts, there are specifications for the makeup of the board. And so that would be something that we would want to look at as well. But with all authorities, again, creating that, then you're putting yourself in a position to potentially cause heartburn with the county, as another authority may come in to want to, capture potential revenues from that space. So there's always a risk involved with that, and that may be something that you would want to consider, do some pros and cons and some benefits of prior to moving forward with that. And you may want to wait until this project is wrapped up before you consider moving forward with that.
No, absolutely. I was just kind of curious.
Yeah.
And I do remember back when we renewed our East EDA that some of the pushback that we got, and I realized what is likely coming. So thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate that answer.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, you have your hand raised. You as a chair, you can speak anytime you want. You don't need to raise your hand.
I don't want to appear that bossy, don't. So anyway, just a couple comments on the last couple questions. The local library, that capture did come up here years ago, and we kind of amicably basically backed out of that. We corresponded with the library committee and basically agreed with them that we wouldn't capture that. And so, I mean, we've kind of, with like the brownfield and the corridor method, we were actually approached by, I think it might have been the Township and the Middle Michigan Development Corporation. They were looking for a brownfield, basically authority or board they wanted to create. And so rather than create it from scratch, they approached our EDA, I think it was East EDA, to become that entity, which we were amicable about doing at the time. So just some couple historical trivia on the things you guys are talking about.
That's helpful to know, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's good, because in a lot of instances, as I stated earlier, the brownfield can still capture school and state education tax, both local and state. And so it provides some benefits to developers, specifically those that may have some challenges on their sites, to provide that TIF rebate back to them. And so utilizing that model, that's sort of where the project specific tax increment comes from, is while the brownfield TIF is very specific to certain items that are related to the Brownfield Act, we can bring those same tools to the DDA and better define sort of what some of those specific funds can be, such as construction, demolition, property preparation, both public and private infrastructures, things of that nature. It gives the DDA some ability to go further than what the Brownfield Act will allow to be spent on.
Got quiet.
This is Tom again. I had another comment, or just for maybe Brian Melke, new to the board here. I know he's had some history here, but I believe, I mean, correct me, Rodney, but our effort here with the CIB planning, our primary goal is just to fulfill the Public Act rules, so we're compliant. So, I mean, I just want to reiterate that we're not all about, we don't have an Amazon distribution center knocking on our door here right now at the moment, but type work, so, but we are, this is a good effort, and been past due, this whole effort we're engaged in.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, certainly this project, going back just a little bit, we talked about whether this was an extension of the current plans, the current DDA districts, or creating something new. And this is absolutely intended to be an extension of our existing DDA districts. And it is intended to as I said, bring the plans into compliance for the current state act. The option that Justin is talking about potentially having a mechanism to help fund a larger development project is certainly an interesting one. It is, I think it's a valuable one to have in our toolbox. There are certainly a number of sites especially in the East EDA district where there might be a need for that kind of a program. I'm thinking one in particular where we have a large vacant building that would be a challenge to take down and redevelop that site. And having this tool available that might help a developer fill that gap is an important one. What I like particularly about what Justin has described is that it does not require the township to borrow funds. One of the biggest challenges that local governments have run into in the past with doing redevelopment projects is putting the full faith and credit of the local government on the line, and then having the developer fail in their end of the game, and simply go bankrupt and disappear and leave the local community holding the bag. This method puts the responsibility on the developer, and as Justin mentioned, the idea is that with this rebate kind of format, we're simply rebating back a portion of the revenues that we receive when they pay their taxes, and so the township is still being made whole otherwise, and the other taxing jurisdictions are made whole based on the original formulas of the TIF program. So it is a very creative idea, and quite frankly, when I came to understand what they CIB had come up with, it was one of the things that attracted me to having them come work with us on this, because I think there's real value in it for our districts going forward. But the key to all of this is really just to bring our plans up to date and to extend the life of these districts, because quite frankly, we still have more to do. Brian mentioned earlier about our August meeting. that August meeting was where we kind of finalized our long-term list of potential projects that we've been talking about since the spring. And there are a lot of projects in there in both DDA districts that we could do if we have more time. So I think there's very good value in extending the program further.
Yep, we look forward to getting started. I know this is a sort of an exciting process, and we wish we were able to join you in person and to spend some time with you. But we're happy to be here and really appreciate the opportunity.
So if I may, Tom, just one additional thought, and there may be other questions that come up, but I just wanted to ask Justin to kind of talk about the next step. I know in our work program that the next step we have to look at is looking at least part of our next step is developing a survey. One of the key piece of this puzzle is we need to have better communication with our business owners in the two districts.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to include a survey to both find out what they're interested in, but also to kind of get contact information that we can then make use of going forward from there. And so Justin, maybe if you could spend a few minutes talking about maybe giving our EDA board members a bit of a homework assignment for the holidays.
Sure. So I'm gonna share my screen one more time, if that's okay. I wanted to pull up from the proposal. We have our project meetings, and so you can see we have 9 sort of meetings scheduled here. We're in 1A, 1B right now. So 1A was sort of this meeting to informally discuss kind of tax increment financing, let you get to know us a little bit, and then kickoff meeting 1B. We want to start actually getting into the data. So it says here, the meeting should also include the assessor, finance director to review millage rates for the taxing jurisdictions. That same day, do a kickoff meeting brainstorming with the EDA board to facilitate a discussion of goals and objectives, collect information, review potential projects for districts, and discuss survey questions. So that is really our next step, is to start to think about when we want to schedule that meeting. For one, a time that works for all of you. And then B, I guess the homework assignment would be to put your thinking cap on and start to identify in your mind some of the key messaging that you would like to share or glean from stakeholders, businesses, and taxing jurisdictions. Part of making this easier for other taxing jurisdictions to swallow is the benefits that they may see as a result of doing this. And so I think part of that is we go through project identification and sort of messaging about the DDAs or the EDA board is all of the things that you're working on that are providing positive benefit within the community. So I would start thinking about some of those items as well, and how we might want to share those types of messages with our stakeholders. But I think probably the immediate next step is for Elena, maybe to work with you, Rodney, to do sort of a doodle poll for potential dates and times, or we could do it at your next regularly scheduled meeting, whatever you think is easiest to start the brainstorming process and building of that survey.
Yeah, I do think we should plan on, unless the board members feel differently, I think we should plan on our regular January meeting date for that. But it certainly, I think, as Justin said, a key element for you as board members, I encourage you to think about over the holidays. Think about what you would like to know from the businesses in our district, from the property owners in each of the districts. And the surveys can be different because the East DDA and the West DDA are different environments. And so we may have a slightly different survey for each district if you find that's needed to get the questions answered you'd like to answer.
Yeah, that sounds good. Rodney, I think we try to keep the meeting at our regular time. I agree with you also on that.
That works for us.
And the next meeting is January 19th,
That's correct.
2021. Yes.
We make it. If we make it.
And that's the same night as planning commission, correct, Rodney?
Yes, yeah, this meeting's at 4:30 and the plan commission meets at 7. So
Is this a meeting, I guess I'll ask our guests here, is this a meeting that typically would take longer enough that we would be broaching to the 7 o'clock hour?
No.
I would generally plan an hour and a half,
Okay,
somewhere in.
I was thinking of you, Rodney.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, this format works for me. So I don't know, Tom or Justin, if you don't have anything else, I guess we can turn the time back over to you, Tom.
Yep, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Justin, and the entire CIB planning team that was with us tonight. I appreciate it.
Yep, have a good night now.
Thank you. You too.
Going on to agenda item 9. What do we have there, Rodney? Pending business?
No pending business tonight.
And item 10, director comments.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. One, obviously the holiday lights are up. We did have we talked about the fixtures near the freeway interchange that are not energized at the moment. We did have, I think, about a half dozen or so holiday lights that had problems one way or the other, that it's blown circuit, blown fuses. And the company came out and made repairs, replaced fixtures along that route. So those are, for the most part, are now taken care of and lit. We had Black Electric had to come out and take care of some fuses. I think we have one street light that is currently out, that something else going on beyond the fuse. But the holiday lighting is up and looks gorgeous. I certainly encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity, go out and see it at night, as it is very pretty. The other thing is, like I said, I'll just reiterate that I encourage you to take some time over the holidays to consider what you would like to know from our businesses and property owners in each of these districts, because the next meeting, as Justin mentioned, is going to be pretty full. They're going to be talking about a number of topics. The survey is going to be an important element of this project, and so the more we can kind of bring to the table ahead of time would be good. You're welcome individually to share anything with me if you have thoughts that you'd like me to pass along to the consultant. I'm happy to collect those, and we'll obviously make sure that everybody gets a copy of them for the next packet. So if you do have items or potential questions or other things related to this project that you'd like to have shared beforehand, as I said, you're welcome to email them to me, and we'll make sure they get into the packet. That's all I have for this evening.
I have one thought before we close. I wanted to reflect back on the comment that Rodney made about the valuable things that the DDAs can do and have done, and the pretty corridor and the good looking viaduct. And that relates to the lighting and the work that was done and the damage that was done in repairing those lights in an upgraded way. And I really want to make a special recognition for Rodney keeping his radar up and noticing that we were able to get a benefit and upgrade our situation at the same time. Now we got LED lights, the latest and greatest. We did it at a big savings. I heard him mention earlier tonight, it sounded close to $15,000 dollars of real money. And those kind of things, I would encourage everybody, and especially Rodney, because he seems to have some pretty good radar for those programs that are out there, that we can continue those kinds of windfalls that help to really, benefit our EDA and our community as well. So thanks for keeping the radar up, and thanks for catching that big bonus for us, Rodney.
You're welcome.
Anybody else with any comments?
I'll just say I'm excited to be back on the EDA. Thanks for allowing me to join you.
No, you're very welcome. It's good to see you. Hey, Rodney, I wonder if we can ask CIB, I don't know how to explain this. What do we do when we're talking to a stakeholder business and they don't necessarily agree with the entire DDA effort or existence?
Well, there's always going to be differences of opinion, no matter what. The property owners, they don't know the difference. They pay the same tax. The question is simply what jurisdiction gets to use the revenues. But for them, under our current arrangement, they don't have any additional tax to the DDA. The law does give us the option to adopt a millage if we chose, but we don't have a need for that at this time. So for the property owners, really all they have is a potential benefit that from the funding that gets targeted back into the district. I think the big item it really is the taxing jurisdictions, primarily the county, and helping them to understand the value of our work continuing on beyond the current termination date. But for property owners, certainly anybody can express their opinion. We hope they do, and they may have very different ideas from what we've already talked about, and that's actually a good thing, because we may learn something that we then incorporate into our plans.
May I comment on that, Chair?
Yes, by all means.
I guess it doesn't seem like a hard sell to me from a business perspective that, if they're being taxed the same no matter what, at least with our DDA, they're guaranteed that their tax dollars are going back into their district. And if it's going directly to some of the other jurisdictions, who knows where that tax money goes? We're going to invest it in them. And I can't see a better argument than that, really.
Yes, that's, no, I completely agree. I guess where I was kind of heading, not to answer my own question, but that's where I almost think sometimes it'd be worth the effort to, I don't say brag about the things we've invested in, especially with heavy infrastructure, capacity increases, and storm drain, curb and street, water, sewer.
Hello.
There's a lot that we have invested in that everything from these big box operators that moved in, they couldn't have done it had we not put in that heavy infrastructure. And sometimes I think many of the stakeholders and area residents, that doesn't connect. So sometimes I think it may be our responsibility to kind of educate folks on that subject. But that's kind of where I was going with that. But
Sir, I don't need. I don't need that. Okay, I don't need.
I appreciate that. That's, Tom, that's certainly, I think, a good element. We probably, as part of this, whatever survey we do send out, we may want to have a, as you said, a bit, we obviously, we don't brag, but toot our own horn a little bit to say, these are all the things we've done, and give a little bit of, as you said, a little bit of historical background. I think that would be a valuable addition to that survey.
I agree. That sounds like a good educational message.
Does anybody else have anything? Any comments? And definitely appreciate everybody who participated tonight. And I believe we can call the meeting to conclusion here at 5:56, if everybody's all right with that.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you. You too.
Have a safe and wonderful holiday.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. We'll see you in the new year.
Yeah. See you in
Yeah.
the new year.
Bake it out. See ya.
Bye for now.